Welcome to the Fifth Gate podcast. We have thrown around the idea of a podcast for years, but we finally made it happen, stuck in the truck together on a 10-hour road trip home from a horse show. Our passion is the Icelandic horse and all aspects of the worldwide community that surrounds this breed. Here we come together as equestrian professionals to share our hardest lessons, biggest wins, and our future hopes in Icelandic horsemanship. Our conversations aim to educate, inspire, and grow all people like us who love Icelandic horses, from enthusiasts and amateurs to trainers, competitors, and field specialists. In today's episode, we had the honor of interviewing Oðinn Örn. Oðinn Örn is a horse welfare officer from Iceland, international breed assessment judge, ringmaster and organizer, and passionate breeder of the Icelandic horse. His dream of breeding a horse with a character so incredible they are able to both be your favorite tolt trail horse and your fastest pace racer is something I think all of us can genuinely love and appreciate. Welcome, Oðinn Örn. We're thrilled to have you on this podcast. This whole thing has been a really fun labor of love for Mackenzie and myself and Cameron. So we're very excited to have you here joining us. We're going to start with questions about your personal story in the horse industry and a little bit about yourself, just in all the roles that you play, which you actually play multiple roles in different aspects of the industry. And then later on in the interview, we're going to do more what we call shop talk, where we're going to ask you questions that are more direct about your profession. And then finally, this is our favorite section of the interview. We're going to talk about the future of horsemanship. So where we see the Icelandic horse industry as a whole moving forward. So with the personal story questions, we're going to start with the fact that you have 3 jobs in the horse industry. So one is as a breeding judge. That's how we met you in Virginia, Middleburg, Virginia, at a breeding assessment. And then also you work at the Matvælastöfnun as a horse welfare officer. And then also you are a horse breeder and rider and just Icelandic horse enthusiast in all ways. So if you had to describe those roles that you play to someone that knew nothing about horses, someone just off the street, how would you explain those roles that you play in the horse industry?
Yeah, for sure. To begin with, I'm honored to be invited to be on this podcast with you. And I think a big part of my role, or I look at big part of my role, is like an ambassador of the Icelandic horse or a missionary for the Icelandic horse. So that's how I look at my role just in general, because I play multiple parts within the Icelandic horse world. One thing that you missed out is I pick up big part of how I've been associated with the Icelandic horse is as a ringmaster or a show manager of the Icelandic breeding shows here in Iceland.
Okay.
If I would try to describe my main job is maybe in the way that my kids used to do it, was that I'm a kind of animal cop. I go around farms and stables here in the south of Iceland to make sure that people treat animals, horses and sheep mostly, in the way that they should. So if I would, to just the average person, I would describe my main job as an animal cop or animal police officer. But of course, it's not as formal as that. I don't have a cap and a uniform. I just
Badge.
wear no badge or nothing like that. And I don't say you're under arrest or nothing like that. But this is just my main job. And then my summer vacations, I used to judge horses and be a ringmaster or a show manager for breeding horses. And then, of course, I've been passionate about breeding the Icelandic horse for quite a while, doing some riding and light training. And the horses that I train are mostly pace competition horses that I'm building up and just leisure horses. I've only been judging horses as a breeding judge for 10, 12 years, but working within the breeding assessment system here in Iceland for almost 25 years now.
Could you explain to someone that maybe knows nothing about breeding assessments or the ringmaster role, what the ringmaster role involves?
The breeding assessment system is really a systematic way of evaluating horses to pick out really the best individuals within the system to get the total population of the Icelandic horse hopefully better from one generation to the other. So this is, in short, that is, but it's standardized with standardized measurements, and we divide the physical parts of the horse into sections and judge each section, like the head or the neck or the total conformation of the body and quality of the legs separately. And that is weighed in with percentage to a total score of conformation. And then also the traits of the Icelandic horse, it's divided into the different gaits that the Icelandic horse has with percentage values. And also we try to evaluate how beautiful the horse looks doing these gaits, and also try to estimate what kind of character the horse possesses.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you wanted or how you knew you wanted to work with horses? Did you grow up with animals? Did you grow up with horses?
No, I'm a city boy. I'm born in the capital of Reykjavik, and my grandfather was one of the founders of the horse club Dreyri in the west of Iceland, as my grandmother used to describe it when my grandfather was coming out of the stables. I clinged really hard on him because I just loved the smell of horses, and he had a lot of horse magazines. And my childhood memory was just being on the floor at my grandmother's house, reading horse magazines that I really didn't understand, or mostly maybe looking at the pictures. But back in the days, the horsemanship in Iceland was quite different than it is today. It was more male oriented, and it was maybe looked at that it was no place for young children to be around horses. It was just the man being up in the stables, and of course, then back in the days, there was maybe a little bit more alcohol involved and more partying involved. So it's a totally different horse world. So I really nagged as I could in my grandmother and my mother to go up in the stables with my grandfather, but I just occasionally I was able to do that. Growing up, then I always really wanted horses, and when I was maybe 10, 12 years old, I tried everything that I could to get my mother to buy me a horse. But she was willing to. There are two things that were really off the chart that was not possible. That was getting a motorcycle and a horse. But the thing is with motorcycle was because she was a nurse working at the ICU, or what is it called in English, and she saw people that had hurt themselves badly on motorcycles. But the reason why she didn't want me to have horses was because all the spare time in her childhood went into chasing around my grandfather, making hay or doing something around horses, not being interested in horses. She really had bad experiences where she was bored around horses, and she didn't want me to. So that is how I grew up, with my parents trying to convince me to do everything else but horses. But I have just, in my opinion, this is just genetic. This is something that I couldn't get out of my system. And in my teenage years, I did something totally different. I was a competitor in powerlifting.
Oh, wow.
And I have a few national championship titles in powerlifting. And then when I was about 18, 19, then when I was in college, I got involved with siblings that were in horses, and then this bacteria just came up really strong again. And then ever since, I've been around horses, owning horses, and working around horses. So this is just something that, a part of me that obviously was supposed to be. And I think when I go around, for example, when I go to farms, I see it just in young children. If they have this passion or connection with animals, or they don't. Some young children are just fascinated with tractors and motor vehicles, and the other ones are just obsessed with sheep or horses or something like that. And I think it's just in our blood, and that's how I would describe my experience with growing up with and without horses.
Yeah, I love that. I can attest that it's something in our blood. We
Yes.
can't stop thinking about them no matter how hard we try.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
This
I
is
want
just something. It's like a disease. It doesn't make any sense in how much time and energy and effort goes into it, but it's just like any other passion. It's just you're willing to do everything to get ahead in this, passion
Yeah.
like I
I
do.
agree.
It doesn't have to have logic when it's about
No.
Yeah, it has
passion.
no lot.
No logic.
Oh,
So I wanted to ask you too, how did you become a breeding judge? Has that been something you'd always been interested in and then you picked it up 10 plus years ago? Or did someone see maybe the ability in you and told you you should pursue it?
Most things that I have done are just coincidences or row of sequences that somehow I end up doing what I do. I am not the kind that make plans. I'm not the kind that dream of being somewhere in 20 years or 10 years. I don't even plan a month ahead or a week ahead. I just ended up in this and
how very Icelandic.
I know that's what I was thinking.
we're not famous for doing plans or making plans here in
No.
Iceland, but I think I'm a really bad or just a strong example of unorganized Icelandic horsemen. But yeah, when I was, like I said, when I was living in the capital and focusing on powerlifting, I wanted to be a physiotherapist, and I wanted to focus on that, and I even had applied for a school in Minnesota to come to the US and study to be a physiotherapist, but and that's the reason why
Yeah.
I did it for you to wear the
Minnesota.
Minnesota Vikings
Yes.
uniform. That's another thing that I'm passionate about is the Minnesota Vikings. So that's maybe a
saw that.
totally different thing. But then with this connection that I got with my friend from college, they were in horses, and then somehow I ended up then starting working just training horses and breaking in horses here in Iceland. And then just one thing led to the next one, and there was a girl working with me who was going to Hólar, and it was that's interesting. Okay, I'll apply also, and even the time to apply had ran out, and I just called the school and said if it was possible, and then just when I was in Hólar, then I decided to go to Hvanneyri University, and Hvanneyri University. Then one thing led to another. And first, I started to work within the system as a ring master or show manager, and I had really not all that interest in judging horses. But then, just as the year just went on, I just came to my head, and my roommate from Hólar and Hvanneyri, Þorvaldur Kristjánsson, who is the breeding leader of Iceland, he just mentioned it. He said, "You have such a good eye for horses, and we need more judges now. Why don't you apply?" And that's just like when I applied for Hólar. Okay, yeah, I'll try
Sure.
that. Yeah. So that's why I have been taking it step by step.
I didn't realize that you had also gone to Hvanneyri. So Hvanneyri is the agricultural school in Iceland that has more of a broad agricultural focus in comparison to Hólar that focuses on fish, horses, and tourism. So kind of like two different schools in the country of Iceland that are agriculture focused but different specialties.
And my BS thesis was about sheep breeding, not horse breeding. So I did a big research about how different breeds of sheep gather fat throughout their development. So my main focus was on, and I was for 14 years, I was also judging Icelandic sheep.
There are similarities between the two breeding assessments, right, for sheep and horses?
The breeding assessment of the Icelandic horse is based on the sheep assessment. There was a Icelandic genealogist, I think it's called, recognized around the breeding industry in a gang called the Hammond gang that was based mostly in Scotland. And they developed, I think it was around 1950 something, a system to evaluate rams, and they started the system of dividing head and shoulders and back and proportions and all of that. That's the basis of the system. And they had in the beginning, I think, 12 traits that they evaluated. But then the Icelandic system with horses was just, the horse was divided into 3 parts. It was just front part, back part, and the total symmetry. But then they saw that the sheep system was much better with percentage, and so you could focus on more valuable traits or less valuable traits.
Wow.
So really, the Icelandic horse judgment system with all these measurements and how it's divided into parts is based on this sheep evaluation system. So that's the mother of the system.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That is so neat.
I actually didn't know fully all the history behind that and the integration of those two. The next thing that we're going to talk about, we're going to pivot a bit here, is in your work as a breeding judge, is there something that you found particularly discouraging or has made you want to stop judging? So you've been doing it for about 10 years. What have been the things that you've struggled with? Because we like to discuss that here in this podcast. What is hard, not only what is good and easy, but what is also hard. And then also, too, is there a part of judging that you really love and enjoy? So both the things that you've struggled with and the things that you've enjoyed.
I think the thing is, what I mostly struggle with is that we maybe not good enough of learning from other breeds' mistakes. You guys know from the U.S. these extreme breeds of horses that have gone, or breeds of horses that have gone to really extremes, both with equipment that they allow and the extreme movements and trouble with fertility and health of horses and all of that. And there are many examples that I think we breeding the Icelandic horse can look at and learn from so we don't make the same mistakes. I think the Icelandic horse should more focus on the origin that it came from. It was or is the heart of the Icelandic horse, in my opinion, is a horse for everybody, a healthy horse for everybody. What makes me think a little bit, or at least stop and think, is that are we maybe going too much towards this big movement, high foot lifting, complicated horse that is maybe not as easy for everybody to train and ride and keep as we want. And that is what I more focus on, the easy, accessible horse, the horse that is soft engaged, that is easy to use in multiple purposes. And I think, in my opinion, a competition horse with a lot of movement that is not easy just to enjoy day to day is maybe not the horse that I want us to breed. And that is the thing that maybe troubles me a little bit. And also that the Icelandic horse world, in my opinion, has focused too much on interest of what I call the VIP people that are in the VIP stands in the big tournaments, the people with the money. But I think the good thing about the Icelandic horse, and even what brings people that are able to invest a lot of money into the Icelandic horse world, is how broad the foundation of the Icelandic horse world is, and how everybody is just the same when it comes to the Icelandic horse. It's both how it's easy for just an average Joe to become a really good competitor or trainer, and how level the playing ground of the Icelandic horse has been. And I wouldn't want the Icelandic horse world, like Landsmót or World Championship, to change into a 300 people VIP stands with some small number of people. I would want it to be everybody coming together, celebrating and enjoying the Icelandic horse. That's what I would want to see. But of course, like I said in the beginning, if I shouldn't focus more of my time and money and energy into something else, and that's maybe what would want me to maybe stop working for the industry. But looking back and seeing what kind of horses we have today compared to what kind of horses I remember first when I had, and I also mean how just the average rider in Iceland, what kind of horses they are riding, then I think we have in the 25 years that I have been working with the horse, we have made quite a good progress.
Mhm. Yes.
And that is what makes me want to continue on working within the breeding industry and breeding horses and all of that. So this is the way I see it, but I have been humbled about or really impressed about going around the horse world. The U.S. and Finland is the East and the West that are the boundaries of where I've been, and also to Scandinavia and all through Europe, is to meet different kinds of people in different kinds of really worlds and see or have a broader perspective than most people have on what people are dealing with and what in what different ways and different environments, different realities people are working within. And I think that is, if I would, what if I'm trying to preach something to maybe the people that I surround myself with most of the year, that are these really big, high quality horse farms here in the south of Iceland. The main discussion that I have is that we have to remember that 80 to 90% of the Icelandic horse world isn't like this. It is just a total different reality that most people are working with.
I think in its own way, the Icelandic horse industry has been radically grassroots. We say that here, like when we talk about grassroots movements in politics or stuff like that, it means from the bottom up. And I love what you're saying about you want to see that valued and preserved, that bottom up and growth to the top, right? And that's the reason too that people love this. That's the reason many of us are here, is that grassroots community within the breed.
Yeah, and I love too how you talked about the progress of the breeding and how, of course, there are things you wish you could change, or maybe not wish you could change, but you wish that you want to make sure people consider carefully as we continue forward. But overall, there's been huge improvements in the last 25 years. And I think that's true for all progress and all industries. Is good progress usually means that we're working on a spectrum, and we are usually overcompensating for one extreme and then jumping to the other end. And then just as we progress, we get closer and closer to the balance of the middle. And so we're getting there. That means the system's working, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it's really good for just everybody to maybe look at pictures or videos or of old Landsmót or how you were, if you have old videos of yourself training a horse from 20 years or 10 or 15 years, and how individually we are progressing, and also just the population or just in general the way of training horses and how we are considering welfare more and more and having it more balanced and all of that I think we've done quite a lot of good things, but I think we have to remember that we're all in this together, and we have to have a horse that is suitable for everybody. And like I've said, and people are always talking about breeding goals and having vision for the future. Ever since I started, then I said that my goal as a 80-year-old is to own a small SUV, a one-horse trailer, and one horse that is so good that I can do everything with him. I can compete in pace and tult and pleasure ride and all of that. That would be my end goal, to have just one perfect horse. And I think today we are working with horses that 25 years ago when I started, we stated that would never exist. I think today that horses that are like the best stallions with 9.5, like Sindri, with 9.5 for tult and then 10 for trot and pace. It is really, 25 years ago, you would tell me that I would be mad aiming for that, but that's our reality today. So, and also with the average horse, how supple and easy to ride these average horses are today. That's also, I think, we're in a good progress there, but we still can do better.
Yeah. So now we have a fun question. This is sort of changing subjects. My favorite question is, what has been the most important horse in your life or your professional career, and why? It can be good or bad.
Of course, getting to try extreme horses and see extreme horses, that is maybe something that can be a life-altering experience. And I have had the pleasure of trying out really, really good horses. And I think most of the highest judged horses, stallions in Iceland, I have had the pleasure of riding. There was a black gelding that is the first one that comes in mind that I used as a helping horse, or when I was breaking in horses, when I was working as a young man, breaking in horses. And I'm even so old that these were the first offspring of Kveikur from this city, who is really the great-great-grandfather of many horses today. This was a horse that was the first horse that I got to know in my life that had this unique quality that only a few horses have. It was how able he was to adjust to the rider that was riding him. His name was Blakkur, and I don't remember his origin, but he was the son of the farmer where I was working. He competed on him 5 years old at the local horse club. And then when I was riding him, he was one of the best horses that I have ridden. My grandmother, then I think she was 78 years old and hadn't ridden a horse for 50 years. He was the way that I got my grandmother to sit on him after 50 years of no riding, and I could just trust him 100%. These kind of horses that are so wise or so sensitive to the rider that a 5-year-old, 80-year-old, and also a professional rider can enjoy them. That is, I think, the most memorable horse, or the horse that changed my opinion about how the horse should be. And that's maybe where this vision of mine of 80, 90 years old with one perfect horse started. My dream would be that every Icelandic horse would be this way, that you guys could be competing with a strong-willed, high leg moving competition horse, and then you could invite your 90-year-old grandmother to go for a pleasure.
I love that. That's always been a part of my personal definition of an Icelandic gæðingur, like an Icelandic great horse, is a horse that can take all riders and adjust their level of energy and how they behave relative to what's being asked of them. And it's so interesting to me that you bring up Kveikur, because my first real special horse, the first real Icelandic gæðingur that I met and got to ride, was Þröstur frá Innri-Skeljabrekku, and he was a son of Kveikur. So same for me, oddly. Same origin story there. If we shift a little bit to some of the animal welfare work that you do, most of our listeners are horse owners. Like if they're listening to such a niche of niche podcasts about Icelandic horses, they're probably somehow own horses or are very close with horses. What are things that you feel are most important to keep in mind when it comes to horse care and welfare, just day to day? And what would you encourage horse owners to consider in how they keep their horses in regards to the stable, their daily routines and schedules, and how they're fed and stuff like that? Are there things that you would want people to keep in mind that maybe go overlooked?
It comes to mind that a friend of mine, Einar Örn Magnússon, he told me that sensitivity is the best trait of a horseman, and that was he always told me that the only thing that you can't teach people is sensitivity. And I think the main thing if you think about welfare of animals, is to amplify the sensitivity in yourself and use all senses to sense the animal that you are surrounded with. And if owners or keepers of animals stop a little bit when they're surrounded by the animal and use all the senses in sensing the environment or sensing how the animal is reacting to the environment, or look into their eyes and sense the animal that they're surrounded with. I think that's the most important part of animal welfare. If you don't give yourself time, if you don't use all your senses, then you're maybe a bit closed or cold or something like that towards your animal. And I think if I would summarize issues that I have encountered throughout my professional career and also just my personal, is just people were maybe not open enough about it. Is my horse unhappy? Why is he so sad in his eyes? Or why is his coat so strange? Or why? I think it just if people just open their eyes and ears and look more at animals as sensitive creatures that have their needs, then I think that's the key to better welfare. One small story of this is, for example, when my wife, that we've been married for 10 years now, when she went to her first lunch meet, she was asking me, what is the highlight of lunch meet? I want my friend and her husband to come and enjoy some highlight of lunch. And I said, of course, on Saturday evening, there's the tough T1 competition. And that's the highlight of lunch. And beautiful weather in Reykjavik. And we had our blankets and they had a bottle of red wine. And we sat down at the track. And then the show started with really loud music. The surroundings of the track was maybe 8 to 10,000 people. The speaker was really up tempo. I thought this was just a great experience. I was just this really exciting A final in T1. My wife and her friends, they had, because they have never experienced this, they had totally different experience, because they just saw like a scene from The Gladiator, just stands full of people, loud presenters, loud music, and scared horses. But of course, because we are so used to it that this is the highlight and this is how it should be. I think sometimes it's good to see what we are doing with the eyes of somebody that has never been in this world. And then maybe, I'm not saying that this is, of course, these horses are used to it and these are trained competition horses and most of them have been in these surroundings. But I think when it comes to animal welfare and the Icelandic horse, we should sometimes step back a little bit and say, is this really how we want it to be? Of course, we want these big events just like the World Championship that just finished. But how can we make the surroundings where we are riding, what we are doing, how we are transporting horses, how we are competing with horses, can we do it better? Of course, there are some things that we have to do or we want to do, but this is the best way that we are doing it as we're doing it today. I think we can always, with how we train horses, break in horses, transport horses, shoe horses, and compete with horses and ride horses, maybe sometimes with just a little bit of thought, you can take away the things in the tracks where you are training horses, getting your horse less afraid in the riding track instead of always maybe cursing the horses, how stupid it is. This sign has been here all the time, or this trailer, or this yellow broken down car. It is maybe, can we make it more animal friendly, or should we step back a little bit and just think and do it at least better than we're doing it today?
Yeah, this is actually something that has come up a lot. I mean, we have clients and students that are asking all the time just about or asking our advice about maybe how to care for their horse, how to manage a problem that they're having. And while we would love to give them a universal answer, and of course there are basic needs for all horses and animals, we really have found that the best thing to point them back to is just to know their horse, which is similar to what you're saying, is to just be aware enough that you are paying attention to your horse's habits, to your horse's daily routine, that you are tuning into that and being present with that so that you can observe maybe the change of pattern, or you can observe the change of behavior so that you can better take care of them at an individual level. So we totally agree there.
But of course, also it is how arrogant we can be, or how
Absolutely.
self-centered we can be. I sometimes you as trainers, you know that this young horse would need one more year in training. But me as an owner, I would push yourself to go faster, do more, let them be ready for this competition. And it all focuses on me. I just want this result now. I don't want to pay more in training fees, but it's not on the behalf of the horse. It is because I just had the goal to be on this world championship. We had the goal to do it. And I say, Carrie, why isn't it like this? You told me that. And then you get the pressure of doing more than you in your heart know you should do. And then, of course, there are external pressures that are sometimes pushing it. People want 10,000 people in the stand. People want it to be like a concert, rock concert experience, and there are all kinds. And then the tickets, ones who are selling tickets, they just want more people, and it is all kinds of these kinds of pressures from owners and money and the industry and all of that that is maybe pushing us. And then, of course, product sellers are trying to sell you all kinds of things and trying to tell you bridles and all kinds of things that is maybe it's showmanship and salesmanship. It is maybe sometimes pushing us as horsemen in the direction that we maybe, if we stop and think, shouldn't go in.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's for us to say, no, I have a live animal here. I'm not willing to. And also with these terrible accidents where, like my friend Edda Rún got paralyzed just because of when she was doing pace through the riding hall, and it was just because the exit was so badly designed that she got into this terrible accident. Of course, the owners of the horses should have said long time ago, I'm pacing through this at extreme speeds, and I just want my animal just to be safe entering the riding hall and exiting the riding hall. And sometimes, of course, we just have to stop giving into these external pressures and say, just, I have a live animal that can react in different ways, and I'm not willing to take my animal into this situation.
It's interesting, I think, because many people, when they talk about animal welfare, they talk about abuse, right? They talk about people that go in with really bad intentions, go in wanting to hurt horses. And I actually believe at this point in the horse industry, most people don't set out with bad intentions. They aren't willingly looking to hurt people, hurt horses. It's more that we become, like you said, and originally at the start of this part of the conversation, it's carelessness, it's lack of sensitivity,
It's selfishness.
it's selfishness,
Yeah.
but not necessarily, the core of it is not necessarily in ill intention. It might be driven by money or outside influences, and that's very tricky as an industry. I think we need to be constantly assessing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think both in my horse world, with the multiple ways I've worked with the horse world and also in the animal welfare, I only can think of. I've been asked about this many times. I can only think of maybe 2 or 3 or 4 instances where I think it was intentionally or with bad intentions.
Absolutely.
I think it is ignorance, it is lack of money, it is mental illness, it is
Yes.
old age, it is not just thinking.
Yes.
Just when you point it out, it's called house blindness in Icelandic. I don't know if there's an English term for it. It is because you're always so used to it being like this,
Uh-huh.
and you're raised in with everything like this. Your grandfather did it, and your father did it, and this is just how it has been. But if you point to it for the person and educate it, then she stepped back and said, "Of course."
Yeah.
When you say it, of course. I didn't see it. So
Yeah.
I think that's more the problem then that's why I think education and discussion is the key thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so going back to breeding, I wanted to ask this earlier when you were talking about just the current evolution, I guess, of the Icelandic horse and some concerns maybe you see that we need to just take care of before they become problems of just these big movements and maybe potentially less rideable horses for the average person. As a breeding judge first, what do you like the most about our current system? But then on the other side, what do you think might need to change or be adjusted, or maybe something you would add?
I think the good thing about the breeding system or where we are going, of course, official breeding system that has an official breeding goal and standardized system uh, is one thing, but if no breeder wants to go by it or use it, that is then useless. A really good step in the right direction was Thorvaldur Kristjánsson. His PhD thesis was about different approach to breeding the Icelandic horse, and also, and the main focus is higher in front with stronger top line horses that are easier to or have conformation that have easier time of carrying the rider. I think that is a step in the right direction, and he did a good study about how conformation traits connect to the ability to use different gaits. That is way to breed a horse that has more self-carriage and that is easier for everybody to ride. I think that was a step in the direction that I have been talking about for a long time, is just an easier horse for everybody to ride. It is not focused on high movements or these extreme like the saddle bride trait. It's more about just self-carrying, supple horse. I think that is good direction the last few years, and this change is maybe about 7-8 years old since we started to focus on this more with strong back line and strong top line of the neck, and also seeing that certain traits are more connected to form and the rider, like proportions are the strongest thing with form and the rider, and that's quite funny because when I started to breed, the first thing, the three main traits that I focused on was good proportions, tilt, and pace. So I've told Dr. Thorvaldur that I was ahead of him, ahead of the research. But I think the thing that we are maybe not doing right, or what we're not focusing on enough, is the general health and fertility of the Icelandic horse. Because I have a background in sheep breeding, where fertility is a really big trait, how the sows or the mothers are milking, and also the fertility of the general population is a big thing. And I also think that we are not focusing enough on health. What I really mean by this, and it can't be just linked easily to economics for just the general horse owner, is if you buy, let's say, a 5-year-old that is not healthy enough and he only lasts you 8 to 10 years as a riding horse, or if you buy a really healthy one, a horse that is from a healthy stock of horses that last you maybe 20 years, then you can divide the cost of buying him with 20 years instead of 10. So, and also is this linked to welfare of the horse? If we are breeding horses with, like some dog breeds have gotten to know, with genetic defaults, then we have just worse welfare with the horse. So I think to have a fertile, healthy horse is something that we should focus more on.
Practically speaking, what do you think that looks like in regards to measures? Because we do stuff like measure the testicles on the stallions. Like there are a couple of measurements and some data that we're collecting, but we don't necessarily have a way of assessing. We do the spavin checks on the stallions, and there is obviously any offsprings and breeding recorded in World Finger. So we have some data points, but we actually don't have a lot of metrics by which we can measure fertility and longevity. Do you have any ideas on what that would look like moving forward?
We Icelandic horse lovers have to realize that this is a joint mission. This is a mission that we're all in together. And for example, to start with, if the owners of the stallions and owners of the mares would more freely share information about fertility problems with their mares, like if I would own a mare that would never conceive without insemination, then I would register that. If I would have a stallion that had really low percentage of pregnant mares, then I would report it. And this information would be collected by all of us for all of us. Because if we don't do this together and we are hiding flaws within the individuals that we possess or own or take care of, if we don't share that information and if it's not systematically collected, then we are in the next generation with a less fertile horse. Then also with horses that we're not able to use or have to euthanize or stop using because of something that should be that information should be collected. And of course, today in World Finger, you can, if you register a horse that is dead, then you should register the reason of death. Is it because of old age? Is it because of illness? And of course, if we collect all this data both on fertility and why some horses last shorter than the other ones, then we can focus or at least put this into our breeding system.
I see how, practically speaking, that could be challenging because people are going to struggle to see ahead that far. Humans are very good at like short-term gain and struggle more understanding long-term consequences. But if we can get more education around that in our community, that will reap benefits down the road for everybody as a whole.
Yeah, and I think going back to how you said, it's for us, the community of Icelandic horse lovers, as if we can all have that perspective that this data that we're collecting is for us to make better informed future decisions so that the breed is better for all of us. I think that is key.
Yeah. I have one final question I want to ask you from our shop talk category of questions, and that is, what is your favorite gait to judge, or what gait are you most passionate about of the 5?
That's easy to answer. It's pace.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I'm with you on that one.
Of course, I was really excited for this last World Championship because a really fast horse from my breeding year from Valhall, he was competing and got medals in the second World Championship in a row. So
congratulations.
Thank you. And my breeding goal is a horse with 10 for tuft and pace. Yeah, I just love watching pace, thinking about pace, training pace horses. Also judging really good pace is something that, because when I was working in Germany with for Styrmir Árnason, I had the privilege to train 5 horses that had 9.5 and 10 for pace. Before I went to Styrmir, I had known some horses that could pace, but to have 10 to 12, 13 horses that I trained daily, then there were 5 of them that had this extreme quality of pace. And maybe once a month, I had a pace day where I just rode them all one after the other, riding 5 extreme pace sprints in a row, and then having a really cold and nice beer afterwards. It's just an experience that just opened just a different world to me, and that's why I've always and my mares. I have 5 first place mares from my breeding here, and they are all with really good pace, with 9 and 9.5 for pace, and that's my main focus. It's good character, and I think the best praise that I get for my breeding is people that own horses from me want to buy more horses from me, and that says something about the character of the horses. I'm also really proud of how well I have achieved breeding these fast pace horses like I wanted to, and hopefully this dream of mine of being 90-year-old, owning one perfect horse, really fast in pace, comes true.
So your dream horse is the best character, the easiest gait, and the fastest pace in the world, right?
Yeah.
My kind of horses.
I own. I don't own any four-gaiters. And there was one mare from my breeding that the trainer called me and he said she has been in training now for 1.5 months and she has not started to talk. And I think she is a four-gaiter. And I said, let's give it 2 weeks more. And then if you still think she's a four-gaiter, then you can just keep her. I just don't want her back. And he was really surprised because he had really high movements. And of course, she's in Sweden now, a really good 5-gaited horse. But he was just in the beginning working like a 4-gaiter. And I said he could just keep her for himself if he wasn't a 5-gaiter.
Not in my barn.
I don't know. I'm right with Oðinn on this one. I can do without the 4-gaiters.
But of course, I also enjoy really good 4-gaiters and these supple, really nice, like Hulin from Brescia was winning the T2 and that kind of 4-gaiters are of course really valuable horses. But these clunky 4-gaiters with stiff tusk is maybe not my kind. But of course, it's good for the Icelandic horse to have different characters or different types of horse. But for my personal opinion, it's just as fast as possible in pace.
I think we can all agree too that the clunky 4-gaiter, that's the perfect way to put it. That I immediately think of a couple in my barn that are just a lot of work to ride. I would rather ride the pacey tolt and make that cleaner and then go fast down the trail than try to work on trottiness and squeezing a 4-gaiter together. So now we are moving into the future of horsemanship questions. We have covered a lot of this already. I really think I might just end with the last one. What do you think? You think so too? Because when I was looking at the other questions, we've talked about so much. So what value do you think horses have for humans and society right now and moving forward?
Just to be surrounded by these animals and just spend time with them and have connections with them, I think that is the most valuable thing about horses and the value of horsemanship. And I think forget time and you forget money and you forget status or where you are in life when you're surrounded by animals like that. And that is the biggest quality of horses. And I think that is timeless. It is even in the age of AI and computers and cyber everything. I think this connection and this grounding that the horse gives you and being out in nature and have this, like we say in Iceland, kongur stund or be a king for a moment. That is something that to have this feeling of care towards somebody is something that is, and I think that is why people with mental illness, with ADHD and people that are maybe not good at communicating with other people have such a good time with horses and dogs. It is connection that is beyond words, and I think that is priceless and timeless.
Going off of that question, so thinking about what I guess horses can offer us in society, what do you think we can offer horses for the future?
In return.
What in return for what they offer us?
Appreciation of the horse and making the best surrounding, and also I think to take the animal out of the social or natural or emotional environment that they are genetically made for is something that we have to have in mind, and we have to pay that back or make sure that the horse or the animal that we have gets as much of their natural requirements or needs as they can. Of course, when you're keeping a cat in New York City, of course you can't maybe have the jungle-like nature fulfilled, but you can at least good that you have then two cats that they can interact with. You can take your horse, maybe if you are in a urban environment, you can maybe take him once in a while out to more natural environments. You can do better, even though you can't maybe set him free into nature. I think, of course, I often hear of foreign Icelandic horse owners. They envy us of the free nature and the vastness that we have for our horse. But of course, you can do the best you can to let your have open stalls, and that is also a thought that, or a pointer that I sometimes point out to these professional riders. Is your horse standing too much in the box, and is the competition season too long, or is this too much? Doesn't he need to be at least some months of the year a horse with among horses? It is, even though you love your horse and you want to keep him in blankets and all of that is not natural for him. So I think we have to have in mind to pay it back your favorite horse, to let him be a horse as much as he can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to be our second interview guest.
This has been incredible.
It has been. We were so excited to interview you just because you have so many different perspectives with all the things that you do. And we enjoyed meeting you in Virginia, and you were just so willing to answer all of our nerdy questions that we thought you would be the perfect one of the first interviews for us on this podcast. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm just honored. And also, I just think it's a part of, for us all, is to share the knowledge that we have. And
Absolutely.
I have a strong belief in there's no superior horseman or a horse lover that has their kind of horsemanship. Some just surround them by horses, never ride. Some ride only in longer trails or some competition. It's just we have all our own perspective of the horse, and I think it's just a big enjoyment for me to share what I know. I know that I don't know everything, and I don't know that my truth is more valuable or higher than anybody else's. But I just love being the ambassador of the Icelandic horse and or missionary of the Icelandic horse, and I really love coming to the US and meet you guys. And I would really love to come. I've been to the East Coast and the West Coast, but I would love to come to visit you guys sometimes and
yeah, in Kentucky. Find you some pace horses to ride. We've got a couple, yeah. But more.
Yeah, that would be nice. But I really would want to come to Kentucky and see how you guys are doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We would love to have you.
Yeah.
We would love to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Fifth Gate podcast. I know you've heard this on other channels, but it really is so important that you like and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening through, or all of them for that matter. We would also love to hear from you on social media. So please send us ideas, suggestions, feedback, or let us know what you're enjoying right now so we can continue to make content you want to watch and hear. Thank you again for your support, and we will see you next time on the next episode of the Fifth Gate podcast.